So that's from everything from the feed mill to the agronomy centers to the farmer that's raising hogs, chickens, dairy, beef, layers, all of the above. So we really ask ourselves here internally is like, how can we do things differently to help disrupt markets?
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into the Wisenetix Podcast. My name's Daryl, and I'm going to be your host today. Today with me, I've got Apoorva Shah, the CEO of SAM Nutrition. Apoorva, how are you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Daryl?
Hey, I'm doing really well. I appreciate you asking. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Apoorva Shah, CEO of SAM Nutrition, as you mentioned. We're a family-owned business based out of Bloomington, Minnesota, founded 21 years ago by my father. And I took over in 2017 as a CEO. We've seen a lot of growth the last 6 years, and really appreciate you having us on to be able to tell our story today.
Hey, that's awesome. We're super happy to have you here. Super happy. So tell us a little bit about what you would consider your top three achievements.
Oh, good question. I think number one, I would say biosecurity. We've spent a lot of time, money, energy working with a lot of swine producers, poultry producers to look at how we can safeguard their flocks and their herd as well. So in 2018, when African swine fever was found in China, there's obviously a big panic because obviously a lot of our pork producers here in this country are exporting the majority of their pork. And a lot of our ingredients come from China, not just China, but a variety of other countries that are now affected by ASF, right? So our goal was really how do we prevent it from transmitting through animal feed? And with some of the protocols and things that we've put in place, we've seen it's been fun to watch that be shared across the country and have these different standards put in place to ensure that the livestock stays safe from foreign animal disease. So that's definitely, I think number one. I think number two has been really growing our team here at SAM. My father and I, my father started this company 21 years ago, and it was just him. I joined in 2011, and it was just the two of us. And only about 6.5 years ago did we hire our first employee, and now we're about a team of 60. So I think that's been an accomplishment of ours to obviously, take some of the values, our core values here at SAM, and see that the industry as a whole really accepts and respects those, and continue obviously to grow our team and grow our business has been probably my second best accomplishment. And I think the third best one is my probably I would say my father, who all three of my father, my mom, and I all immigrated from India with a couple $1,000s and three suitcases. And for I'd say about a year and a half ago, my dad looked at me and he said, "Porv, I never thought in my wildest dreams that we'd be here as a family with the level of success." So I think it just kind of goes back to if you work hard, you can definitely live the American dream. That's why we came to this country, and I'd say that's probably my third biggest accomplishment.
That's awesome. Like all of that is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Normally when I ask this question, people's parents don't work with them, but they certainly did. Your father started the company. So what would your dad say, your father say you do right now?
I would say that he likes to call me disruptor. I think we've come in and really shown the ag industry that there are things that we can do better, right? And not just a disruption in terms of okay, hey, we got a better price, whatever. That's one way to disrupt. But what are some of the new things that we can do? Like I mentioned, biosecurity, new ingredients that we're bringing to market, right? And also showcasing new technologies that we've implemented here at SAM to help make the farmer's life easier, right? So that's from everything from the feed mill to the agronomy centers to the farmer that's raising hogs, chickens, dairy, beef, layers, all of the above. So we really ask ourselves here internally is like how can we do things differently to help disrupt markets? So I think that's one word if I was to use to kind of describe what we do.
Sure. No, that's a good word to pick.
Yeah.
That's a great word to pick. I love it. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit here. I want to talk a little bit about marketing with you, specifically about technical content. And do you think producing and sharing really technical content is important for your brand's positioning? And then why or why not?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done a lot of being kind of more of like a commodity player where you're selling products that have already been in the market. The goal for us is 3 to 5 new products every year, right? So how do we continue to reinvent ourselves? So technical content in terms of studies, data. We work with some of the biggest universities here in the U.S. on not just swine but on broiler studies as well. And for us, sharing that data and technical content is extremely important because what we want to do is we want to have our products backed by science, right? And so we have to get that data and that content out to as many decision makers, but also nutritionists as possible, because we have products that have more bioavailability for a lower price. And as you're aware, Daryl, this year has been extremely tough on poultry and swine producers. So we think it's a really golden opportunity for us to come in and say, hey, look at what we can do to help save you guys some money, right? And keep that performance still high of that animal. So, yes, it is very important. And that's something that we're going to continue to do year after year.
That's awesome. And you're right. Swine and poultry have had a rough year. They really have.
And yeah, it's honestly, we think of ourselves as partners to them, right? We're not a vendor. And for us, it's like, okay, how can we help mitigate some of those losses, right? Because we need these farmers in the long run, right? I mean, they're extremely important to food security, not just here, but globally. I mean, the amount of pork that we export as a country is astronomical. So it's very, very important that we're in this together to ensure that everyone continues to stay profitable.
Yeah, I love that. We're all connected.
Yeah.
And I love that you said we view it as more of a partnership. That's such a strong statement. I love that. How do you you know, build authority and thought leadership in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think going back a little bit, you asked me about what kind of the top three accomplishments. Number one was biosecurity, right? I mean, as I touched on, it's really thought leadership and authority. When 2018 when swine fever hit, we're like, well, what do we do, right? And we said, well, we need to go look at our entire supply chain. So we went over to China with a veterinarian. We said, hey, let's look at from the time a product is produced to the time it delivers to our customers. How do we make sure that everything is traceable down to the farmer? So if the farmer asks us, hey, Apoorva, I need to know where this pallet came from, we can actually trace it all the way back to the source and say, this is where it came from. Here's how it transported. Here's how it got to your door. So, that's how we build authority and thought leadership, is by doing. Right. I mean, I think anyone can sit here and think about it, but how do we put it into action? And we were able to take that and put that into action. Then we also, we listen to a lot of our customers. We are very customer focused. Say, hey, Sam Nutrition, can you guys help us out with product A, B, C, or D? We say, sure, we can, or here's a problem that we're trying to solve, right? We launched a new product recently that's a vitamin E replacement product that said we want to help reduce some of our costs, especially right now, as I mentioned about with where feed costs were this year. So we said, great, we've got a new product that is actually a little bit cheaper than what vitamin E is, right? And it gives you the same performance, if not a little bit better. So it's about listening to our customers. It's about understanding their needs, their wants, and staying close to them on a daily basis, so that we can start building authority and thought leadership in the marketplace and saying, hey, here are the things that we're doing to make your life easier.
What I'm hearing is by making the customer your partner, and the center of your business, which all businesses at the end of the day are, right? That's how you're building it.
Exactly. I mean, we have to understand our customers' pain points, right? I mean, we have a new line again, as I mentioned, 3 to 5 new products, hydroxy minerals that we were able to come out with this year. The amount of money that one swine producer saved on their bottom line, it was like almost like $3 a ton, right? By changing over to us. I mean, that's meaningful savings to help mitigate some of the losses that they're facing this year. So yeah, it's staying close, make the customer the focus of our business. And one of our core values is unmatched service. So that's something that we always strive for.
I love that value. I love that value. Throw it everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of in the same realm, what would you say are your biggest challenges in terms of marketing and communication right now in your company?
Yeah, good question. I think we talk to a lot of companies and they're like, I think I would say the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of companies know about us now. I think not just here, but I think in the global marketplace. But as I mentioned, it was my dad and I. My dad started it in 2002, 2011. I joined. It was 9 years. We were kind of just a I don't want to say mom and pop shop. I mean, we were dad and son shop, I guess. But I would say the biggest thing is getting our story out there. Right? It's from marketing and communication is who are we? What do we do really well? Why should people work with us? And then and look at what we're doing in terms of continuing to disrupt the industry, right? So it's a I always say that the feed and food industry really and the animal protein industry is like the biggest smallest industry that's out there, right? I mean, everyone kind of knows of each other. So I think the biggest thing for us is being able to tell our story, talk about our products, talk about our services, and really showcase our value.
You could not have said that better. The biggest, smallest industry. Because I feel the same way. I don't come from agriculture, but I come from a very similar industry, and it was the same. It's big, but everybody knows each other, and you're on the mark there. Everything you said makes perfect sense to me. So, kind of switching gears a little bit, one more time here, a little more personal, but I always find that it's a big influence on what we end up doing. So, especially in work. So, who have you had like a mentor, a professional mentor that you would consider the most important?
Yeah, this is going to sound kind of cliche, but I'd say my father, right? It's the family story actually goes back, probably about 70, 80 years. My grandfather, his father was born in a tiny village in India, no running water, no heat, no electricity type of thing. And from there, he kind of bootstrapped his way, to having four manufacturing units of paints, coatings, sealants, and epoxies. My dad was the youngest of four. Family saved enough money to send him here to get his master's at North Dakota State University. And my dad is, I've been growing up in business my entire life, surrounded by kind of entrepreneurs. And my dad has been, a very important professional mentor because he is still one of, he's extremely kind, very, very smart. But he's just a grinder. I mean, he still comes in the office every single day. He still works, 50 hours a week. He's still doing his thing. And, he taught me a lot of important lessons, right? It was everything from how do you manage your cash flow, right? To when I joined the business, he said, "Hey, Apoorva, this industry, a handshake means everything." Right. So he goes, when you make a handshake, he's like, that's your word. And that's always stuck by me, right? I think, especially here in the Midwest where we are, where Sam Nutrition is, that handshake still goes a really long way, and in the feed industry and the animal protein industry as well, right? And I don't think you can say that for a lot of industries. So he's taught those, I think those morals and those values instilled in me that you can now relate and put into your business. And then obviously, like everything else that's business related, right? How do you market yourself? How do you differentiate yourself? How do you make sure that you're continuing to innovate? Because he's always told me, he's like if you don't continue to reinvent yourself, he's like businesses die, and that's how they die. So we always challenge ourselves doing it that way. And then for everything from finance to marketing to customer service to sales, and I mean, he's taught me a lot. So I would say he's probably been my most important professional mentor.
That's awesome. I wouldn't even say that's cliche. Your family story in general is amazing, and then what lessons your dad must have teaching is maybe probably still teaching you is awesome. And it touches me too because I feel the same way about my dad, even though I didn't end up going into his profession, but I feel the same way. So if I could get teary eyed right now, I probably would a little bit. Let me ask you this. It's kind of an interesting follow up question. What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
Um, that's a good question. I'd say your word is your bond. I think if you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. And I think that's I know it sounds really easy to do, but I've realized a lot of people don't do that. I think if you just do things the right way, act the right way, uh, go about your business life as well as your personal life, with your family, your friends the right way, and just do what you're going to say you're going to do, I think you can go a long way.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually one of our core values is do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah,
And it kind of goes professionally and personally, miles. So kind of winding down just a little bit here, Apoorva. These are more fun questions.
sure.
What is the favorite trip you have ever taken?
Favorite trip? Oh, good question. I would say after it was right after my senior year of high school, my aunt, uncle, and cousin lived in Switzerland. So we went there to go visit them. Loved the country. I used to snowboard back then for a while, and Probably one of the biggest adventures I've ever been on was getting lost in the mountains of the Swiss Alps on Mount Zermatt up there for about 4.5 hours. My mom was absolutely thought I was dead, but I was by myself and chairlifts closed and everything. And there's, if you ever been to Switzerland, there's like no, like in the real Swiss Alps, like there's no safety signs or any of this other stuff up there. It's just, you just kind of go, you got to know where you're going. And it took me about 5 hours to get down. They were about to send a search helicopter looking for me, but after I saw some of the big steep drops, I just decided to walk. But it was a fun adventure. I don't think at my age anymore I'd want to do that again. But I think it instilled a lot of confidence in me that I could get through that. If I could get through that, I could get through anything. And I just really enjoyed those few weeks with my aunt and uncle, my mom and dad, who I'm really really close with, spending time in Switzerland with
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like a Bob Ross happy little accident moment.
them.
I haven't been, but it's on the bucket list. There's a definitely in the pictures I've seen. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's a beautiful country.
Hopefully sooner than later. But I've got two more follow-up questions for you. What is a piece of advice that you would give someone starting out like in your career?
I'll give you a two-part answer to that, if that's okay. I would say when you're starting out, say yes to everything. One of the things that I think I did as well is you always say yes, especially when you're starting out, because you don't know what type of doors that are going to open for you, right? Hey, there's a networking opportunity. You might be tired, you might be exhausted. You just say yes, just go. I tell some of our, younger salespeople that have joined, I said, some of the biggest, sales opportunities I've had in my life, it'd be 4:30, and I've been on the road for 15 hours visiting customers, doing cold calls, and there's like, okay, I have one more feed mill on my list, and I'm like, they're probably not there. I'm like, no, you just say yes, right? Go do it. But I will tell you also, as you further along in your career, you also have to learn to say no. So as you get older, start valuing your time and don't say yes to everything, because time with family is very important, time with your kids, time with your friends. And as you continue to say yes, there's going to be more and more people that are going to pull that time away from you. So time is your most valuable asset, and as when you're younger, you have a lot of it. So say yes, build your network, do the things that you want to do, and then as you get older, start saying no.
I get that, and I love that. Actually, I have very similar experience with when I was a young salesperson. My best deals were always the ones that I didn't want to do. Like I didn't want
Yeah,
to go to blah blah blah. And I read a quote earlier today actually that totally matches with it, which was and I forgot who it's from, but it's the magic is in the thing you don't want to do.
yeah.
And so totally makes sense. And then now I'm the same as you. I protect my time, I like to say. Perfect advice. Last question before we wrap up. What do you think the world is going to look like in 20 years?
Good question. I think we've been seeing this since probably, March of 2020 when COVID hit, right? I mean, we're starting to see labor becoming a big problem. You look at a country like China, whose population is actually going to start going the other way by 2030. They're seeing 25% unemployment rates, right? So I think, it's a buzzword right now, but whether it's artificial intelligence or really a lot more computer type, things that are going to be going around. So, I mean, one of the things we're already seeing is they're putting cameras on forklift operators or on forklifts, and the operators on the other side of the world managing it, right? Picking and packing things. I think we're going to see the advancement of technology just go through the roof here with the advent of AI and these supercomputers that are coming. And that's going to affect everything from, how are we looking at crops? I think we're already seeing it, right? We can send a drone over and say, all right, you know what, we've got a little less moisture here, a little more moisture on this end. These crops are doing better. This is where we need to focus our time. The same thing's happening in, hog and poultry farming as well. Is AI is going to come in and start being able to identify things that are going on in each barn, whether it's disease or malnutrition or whatever that's going on. So I think one of the biggest things in 20 years is I think we're going to have a pretty large labor crisis, I think, globally. And the question is, how do we navigate that as humanity, and making sure that people are still being taken care of. I think that's going to be a good, big challenge for us in the coming years.
That's an interesting take and one I'd agree with. I don't agree with the take of AI, Skynet, Terminators coming.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm not quite there yet, but I do see the labor shortage, not shortage, but the labor crisis coming with essentially jobs being replaced by technology and data driven. It's like the age of data right now. So, well, that's the podcast. It was super awesome having you on here, Apoorva.
No, thanks for having me on, Daryl. I appreciate it.
No problem. And just so our listeners can know, where could they find you online?
Yeah, easy. www.samnutrition.com. So feel free to send us a note. Check out we actually just relaunched our new website. So all our contact information is on there, and happy to help any way we can.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Apoorva. And thank you, everyone else, for listening to the Wisenetix Podcast.